coming up on Film Nerd by Night.
And I gotta tell you, I was pleasantly surprised how much I enjoyed it. It does have a few relatively minor issues and one big problem: the entire premise.
And now, the show.
All right, folks, I'm Cole Powell, musician by day, film nerd by night. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about Disclosure Day, which, despite a lot of opinions, I thought was pretty good. It does have a few relatively minor issues and one really big one. Before we get into it, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, click the bell for notifications, follow wherever you're listening to this on, do whatever else you need to do to stay up with the podcast and support it. Also consider supports on Patreon for early access to episodes like these and full-length movie reactions. Disclosure Day. I did not like the one trailer I saw for this movie. But it's Spielberg. It's a Spielberg sci-fi. Spielberg is not only one of the greatest science fiction directors of all time, he's also one of the greatest directors of all time, period. Plus, I'm doing a film-centric podcast, so I got to go see this movie. And I got to tell you, I was pleasantly surprised at how well the movie was and how much I enjoyed it. To me, Spielberg, he's still got it. He's still on top of his game. The way he directed the camera and his actors is unlike most top directors can do today. The camera movements just swept the story along and swept the viewer along. There wasn't really any big cinematography, any grandiose epic spectacle like some of the shots we got in Project Hail Mary, which was another great sci-fi from earlier this year. But just the sure-handed direction of the camera is just unmatched. It was also a really good action sequence. It was essentially a train chase, and we've seen train chases how many times in the last 100, we're at like 125, 130 years of film at this point. And it takes a lot of creativity to be able to stage a train chase and make it unique and interesting and engaging, and Spielberg does it here. It was absolutely incredible. There's also a couple of really great performances in this movie. Colin Firth, who is always good. He's one of these actors that essentially plays himself, but in whatever role he's supposed to be in the movie, and you just buy it. He's kind of a Jack Nicholson type. Jack Nicholson's the same way. He plays the villain in this. Noah Scanlon's the character's name. And Emily Blunt, who's the lead in this, she plays Margaret Sullivan, the lead character. And it may have been the best performance of her career, at least that I've seen. Her performance in A Quiet Place was top tier. There was a birthing scene. If you haven't seen that movie, it's riveting. But this is a top tier performance from Emily Blunt. So that's the great. Here are a few of the relatively minor issues. Some may consider these more major than I do, and then we'll get into one really big problem. The rest of the cast, they're not bad, but they're just fine. They're basically just serviceable for their characters. Their characters do what they need to do to move the plot along, and that's it. Josh O'Connor, who plays the second lead character, Daniel Kellner, he felt particularly flat up against Emily Blunt's character because she was just so good. And with him supposed to be the co-lead, it was really a really disappointing performance there from Josh O'Connor. The setting, there were elements in this movie that seemed like that they were set in the 80s or 90s or 2000s. One that comes to mind right off is the U.S. and Russia are apparently on the brink of nuclear war, World War III, whatever, and that's not the geopolitical climate that we're in right now. It's more like something from the 80s, the Cold War, so I'm not sure why that's in the movie. The big one, and spoiler territory here, I'm going to get into some major spoilers as we go along here, but whenever we get down to the end and get the Disclosure Day, there's a big deal that Emily Blunt's character, who is a weather girl for a local news affiliate, she wants to be more than that, but that's all she is. She is desperately trying to get back with help from the organization that's trying to get all this information, disclosure, alien information out there. She's trying to get back to her local affiliate station to make this disclosure so that the world can see the alien footage. And that doesn't really make sense in today because we have the internet. And unless I missed a line, they don't really explain why they didn't just release it on the internet. The only thing I can figure is maybe we're supposed to think, well, if they release it on the internet, then it can be more easily swept under the rug. People could say, well, this is AI or this is a deep fake or whatever. But if it comes through a terrestrial broadcast, it has a little bit more respectability and credibility, and everybody will just accept it and not question it. But again, unless I missed a line, they didn't explain any of that. I think the more likely reason that this element is in the movie is that Spielberg and screenwriter David Cope are a couple of boomers, and they don't really understand that terrestrial broadcast and cable news don't really break stories like this anymore. I know that kind of sounds ageist, but I know a lot of boomers. I love a lot of boomers, and that makes the most sense for me. The movie's also too long. It's 2.5 hours, and I didn't check the time until we were an hour and 40 minutes in, which is pretty good. That means that the movie has kept my attention for a full hour and 40 minutes before I even think about checking at the time. But when I looked and saw that we still had 50 minutes left, I knew there was no way this film could justify an additional 50 minutes of runtime, and I was correct. The last act is bloated, particularly when we get to the disclosure. We're shown scene after scene after scene of this classified footage of alien spaceships, aliens themselves, extraterrestrials themselves, and there were at least 3 or 4 of those could have been excised and saved a lot of runtime. The big reveal, there are 2 big reveals really, and again, I'm getting in major spoiler territory here. This all comes out in the 3rd act. Through the entire movie, we've been teased that when Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor's characters were 10 years old, something happened to them that has allowed them to develop these communication powers that are setting them up as a couple of liaisons between the aliens and the humans. And it was traumatic. They don't remember a lot about their childhood before they were 10. They don't remember what happened when they were 10. They just know something really bad happened, and they don't want to talk about it, and they don't want to deal with it, whatever. Well, when we're finally shown what happened, it's the most basic version of events that David Cope could have come up with. I mean, it's the first thing you think. Well, they were probably abducted by aliens when they were a kid, and they did something, and then they put them back, and that's exactly what happened. So David Cope knows this, though, so he tries to spice things up with the details. So he has the aliens appear as woodland creatures, and this is something that we've been teased since the beginning of the movie, that there's something with Emily Blunt's character and Josh O'Connor's character that when they see animals, there's some kind of rapport there, and it can trigger their powers. What turns out, that's because aliens appear as animals. So they do this scene where the aliens appear as woodland creatures, and it's kind of a play on the Disney princess trope that has the 10-year-old version of Emily Blunt's character actually singing a song from Snow White when it happens. And then she follows the woodland creatures into the woods, and then there's this giant cottage in the woods they literally call the Hansel and Gretel house in the dialogue. Then she goes into the cottage, but of course the cottage is actually a spaceship, and the animals are actually aliens, and then they put her on a table, and against her will, they do some kind of not really invasive procedure, not physically invasive, but there was this technology goes around her head, and then you see that Josh O'Connor's child character is there, and the same thing's happening to him. And then we get that they were put back in their regular lives, and they've had this trauma that they've been living through their entire lives, and it gave them superpowers eventually when they were adults. And it's like, what is the message we're supposed to get from this? Because the original Hansel and Gretel story is beware the enticements of strangers. And this is a flip of that. It's like, no, actually, those enticing strangers, they may be cool. You may go with them, and they'll do some invasive stuff to you. But hey, at least you'll get some alien powers eventually. I'm not sure what we're doing here. It's really weird, really creepy. It kind of plays like a bad M. Night Shyamalan twist, and the rest of the movie is a lot better than a bad M. Night Shyamalan movie, so I don't really know what David Cope was doing with that. The second reveal, it's so crazy to me that it was even played like a reveal because I thought it was obvious. I thought the dialogue was telegraphing this. There is an alien that was tortured by Colin Firth's character that they show footage of early in the movie, and it prompted Coleman Domingo's character to become Disclosure Day, like disclosure has to happen, and he ends up rescuing the alien, and they keep talking about that the alien he's working with the alien, and he's got the alien and whatever. So I'm expecting the alien to show up at the end of the movie, and the alien does, but the way it's framed, it's like the audience wasn't supposed to get that. The audience wasn't supposed to expect the alien to show up at the end, and I thought that's kind of the audience have to be stupid not to expect this alien to show up at the end when you've established that the alien was a big part of this Disclosure Day organization and that the leader of it helped the alien get out, and you've established that the alien has been working with the organization. So not really sure what they were thinking there with the way they staged and framed this big quote-unquote reveal that to me was not a big reveal at all. Now, for the big problem with this movie is only one, the entire premise. I remember when I was a kid in the 90s, the only people who believed that extraterrestrials were real and they were here and they were among us, they were abducting people, were the conspiracy theorists and the kooks. Now it's kind of flipped. I'm the kook because I still don't believe in extraterrestrials. Spielberg clearly does believe. He said this many times before that he does believe in extraterrestrials. And there's parts of the script that I feel like that has trappings of alien internet rabbit holes that Spielberg, I feel like, has gone down. David Cope went down. I don't know if he went down them before he wrote the script or was doing it during it, but you can just tell if you've seen any kind of internet conspiracy theories. And because of that, it's actually one of, if not maybe the most relevant film that Spielberg has ever made. But when you go all in on a current topic for relevance, you're relegating the film to future obscurity, because no matter which way this goes, let's say I'm right, there are no extraterrestrials, there will never be a Disclosure Day. 30, 40, 50 years from now, people look back at this movie and laugh saying, isn't that quaint how the 2020s thought that aliens were real and that there was going to be some kind of big Disclosure Day. If Spielberg's right, and there are aliens, and we do get a Disclosure Day at some point, 30, 40, 50 years from now, people are going to look back on this movie and say, isn't that funny how the 2020s thought we were going to find out about aliens and how Disclosure Day was going to go down, how aliens actually acted, and that's not how it went down at all. Ha ha ha. And of course, we could also be trying to fight off an invasion by then, and none of this is going to matter, but either way, the movie is going to seem quaint and dated and probably laughable in the future. Another big problem with the premise, and this is something Spielberg's been doing since Close Encounters, he loves the friendly alien trope. He did it with started with Close Encounters, then E.T., and now Disclosure Day. The only one that he didn't, the only alien movie that he didn't do, and I guess Crystal Skull you could throw in there too, although those weren't supposed to be extraterrestrials, they were interdimensional, but whatever. The only alien movie he's done that he didn't use that friendly alien trope on was War of the Worlds, which I think is one of his best movies. I know some people didn't like it. I thought it was excellent. And he's so convinced that any aliens are so much better than human beings that he makes the aliens in this movie, even though they've been tortured, even though they've been experimented on, they will not retaliate against us. Even though they could, with their technology, they could wipe us out, and their powers that they have, they can wipe us out. They're not going to do that because they're so much better than us. And they literally say this in the movie. They understand that the greatest characteristic for all living beings is empathy. And first of all, that's just not true. And it ends up leading to one of the biggest ham-fisted, heavy-handed lines in the entire movie. And not a line, it's a lengthy monologue, really, that in this movie and in any movie I've ever heard, and it's just so on the nose and preachy. And the rest of the movie is not, and it's not a long scene, but it kind of took you out of the movie, and it's like it's an eye roller. And I like positive outlooks in movie, and this movie has that. This movie has a positive outlook on, well, the aliens, they're probably good guys, and at the end of the movie, there's hope because we've kind of come together once this disclosure is made and the war is stopped. But if you're gonna have positivity in a movie, it needs to be undergirded with realism, and Spielberg's just feels like unfounded optimism. But even though I had a problem with the film's premise and thought it was shaky, I do commend Spielberg, David Cope, and whoever else was involved for respectfully addressing the source of my skepticism and the skepticism of other people in my demographic, which is our faith. I doubt extraterrestrial existence because my particular theological framework precludes it. But instead of acting like we're ignoramuses for not believing in aliens, the movie has a couple of organic characters in there that at least try to thoughtfully address our objections and assuage fears that a real disclosure day might bring, although I'll get to that in a minute, but I don't think there would really be any fears, but Spielberg and company thinks that there would be. So Kellner's girlfriend, this is Josh O'Connor's character, his girlfriend, Jane, who's played by Eve Hewson, who is Bono's daughter, she was formerly training to be a nun. And she left at whatever point. There's a line in there about she was starting to doubt the divinity of God or something. It was kind of weird. I'm not 100% sure what she said. But anyway, she left, but she still considers herself a Christian. She's holding on to the faith. And as soon as she finds out that there's aliens exist, this is fairly early in the movie, she immediately is convinced the world can't be told because it's going to shatter a bunch of people's faith. And it's going to plunge the world into chaos. And first of all, that view, I think that's more of an erroneous perception on Spielberg's part. Like, he thinks that some people would think that, and there would be very few people, if any, that did. People with true faith, it wouldn't shake their faith at all. They would just adjust whatever they need to adjust to realize, like, oh, so this part of my theology wasn't correct. So but I see how it can work now that I've gotten more information. But I do appreciate his effort and how he leverages Jane's character in the rest of the movie. So, as she's starting to deal with the implications of the existence of aliens, Colin Firth's character, Scanlon, telepathically connects with her and starts trying to manipulate her. He's trying to find out where she is because she's hiding out with the boyfriend, with Kellner. And he starts trying to get information, manipulate her, and she's fighting him by squeezing her crucifix, into her palm. And there's a nice cut between she's got that in her hand, squeezing it, seeking help from Christ, and Colin Firth, Scanlon, is holding a piece of alien technology that's allowing him to make this telepathic connection in his palm, and they're intercutting back and forth, which I thought was really, really good visual. And I can't remember the exact order of how things went, but I think what happened, she's able to break it, and then he comes back, and she drops the crucifix, and she's fighting against, and she takes her hand, and she mashes her finger into the hole where she's cut into her palm with the crucifix, and she's got blood run out there, and she's able to break Scanlan's hold again. Well, then he's able to connect one more time, and once he's connected this time, he starts quoting scripture and twisting it to manipulate her, and then he is mind controlling her to kill her boyfriend, to kill Kellner, because that's what Scanlan wants her to do. So a little bit later, she's about to kill Kellner. She's got a knife, and instead of killing him, she is able to resist enough to stab that knife into the wound, into her hand where she had cut the crucifix in there. And when she does that, it breaks Scanlan's control. And the metaphor here is clear. Scanlan is Satan, manipulating, controlling, twisting scripture to challenge this woman of faith. And she is a Christian who's able to overcome Satan through the power of Christ. And this was a surprising message. I mean, there's no other way I see to read this. This was a surprising message in this movie. So, toward the end of the movie, there's a nun character. She was the nun that was in charge of the convent. That is what I got out of it anyway. She's in charge of the convent that Jane was training at. And the nun is played from the get-go as very calm, very wise, but also very tough. And she has a conversation with Jane. Jane is saying, like, if aliens are real, my understanding of the Bible is that human beings were the apex of God's creation, but I'm seeing evidence of aliens that they're better than us. So what does that do to my faith? And the nun's like, well, the Bible's only talking about Earth. And Jane's like, what? Oh, you're right. I never thought about that. And then she's fine with it. And then she helps the disclosure happen. Like, she ends up kind of being the hero of how they're able to finally overcome Scanlan and get the disclosure out, because he's trying to stop them the whole time. And first of all, I don't think that Jane's perspective is real. That's what the nun's perspective is real. That's how I would deal with it if turns out my theological understanding was not true and extraterrestrials are real. I would adjust my understanding of some peripheral doctrines of my religion, but not the core. My core would be intact. And I thought, again, I think Spielberg kind of underestimates what true faith is and what would happen to our faith if aliens turn out to be real. But once again, I do appreciate how he handled the issue with respect and with realism mostly, and did not try to patronize or demonize people like me, people of faith. Despite my disagreement with the film central premise and all the other things that I listed, I know it sounded like I kind of gave a negative review of it, but I was just kind of pointing out some of the things that I thought were weak and thought they could have done better. They didn't really affect my overall enjoyment of the film. I really enjoyed the film, and I really thought it was good, and I'm going to give this an objective quality rating of a 9 out of 10. And also a personal enjoyment rating of a 9 out of 10. I had a great time at the movies. I'm glad I went. I took my oldest daughter. She's a teenager. She enjoyed it. She loved it. She was just like me, kind of riveted from the get-go. Well, I take that back. She actually, the first opening scene, she wasn't feeling, and then when it got into the plot, she really got into it. I thought it was really good. I don't know if I would recommend going to see this, because there are so many different perspectives floating around out there on this movie, and it looks like it's going to end up crashing and burning after a solid opening. There are people who, younger generations, I mentioned some of the kind of the boomerisms earlier. Younger generations aren't liking the look of it. The younger generations, particularly Gen Z, that are going to see this movie, are giving it bad word of mouth. One of the big things that's sticking in their craw, from my understanding, what I've read, what I've seen, is the non-internet release of the disclosure that they went to the terrestrial broadcast, which I mentioned earlier in my review. And there are also a lot of Christians who are not getting the same message that I'm getting out of this movie, and are taking it really negatively. And they're kind of up in arms about it, don't want to go see it. So I don't know if this movie is going to do well at the box office. Initially, it was tracking really well for opening weekend. It ended up making about midway in that original box office tracking range. After that, it's dropped off significantly, and it looks like it may end up being a flop. And I know Spielberg, who has been inconsistent in being able to be a box office draw like he was, he reportedly did this movie as kind of a career reset to try to make another blockbuster run that he hasn't really made in a long time. And if this doesn't work, and it looks like it's not going to, I could see this might be his swan song. I don't know if he's got any other movies in development right now, but I could see he's got to retire sometime. He's getting on up there in years, and I could see maybe this being his final film. I hope not though, because again, I thought it was really good. I liked it, and he's still one of the greatest directors of all time. So, what do you think? If you gone to see Disclosure Day, what did you think about the movie? If you haven't seen it, is this something you're interested in checking out in theaters or waiting until it's streaming? What did you think of this review? Let us know in the comments, and we will see you next time.
Film Nerd by Night, created and hosted by Cole Powell. Theme, Beautiful Now, written and performed by Cole Powell, a Randomine Records production. Section 107 of U.S. copyright law allows for the fair use of copyrighted material for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, parody, or research.